One way to apply a transition effect in a sequence is to drag it from the effects panel to the edit directly. I'm going to go to the window menu here and choose Effects, browse through my video transitions, and perhaps I'll take the default cross dissolve and drop it straight in between these two clips. This works perfectly, but I'd like to show you a faster way using the keyboard. If I zoom in a little using the navigator here so we can see that transition more clearly, you can see that I can change the duration of a transition effect by dragging the ends, much as you might trim a clip. If I hold the Shift key, then I can make an asymmetric adjustment. See, I'm making the beginning of the transition shorter than the end. You can also double-click on the transition effect to specify a new duration. I'll put in 2.00 here. I'm not worried about the punctuation because I know Premiere Pro will correct it for me, and I'll click OK. With a transition effect selected, you can go to the Effect Controls panel and access more advanced options. This particular transition effect is quite simple, so all I can really choose is where the center of the transition effect is. I'm going to select that transition effect, and I'm going to press backspace or delete to remove it. When you add a transition effect, it has a default duration, and you set that in the timeline preferences. That's under the Edit menu in Windows and the Application menu in macOS. You can choose whether the duration for a transition effect is in seconds or frames, and it's pretty useful choosing seconds because then the frame rate of your sequence doesn't matter. I'm pretty happy with 1 second, so I'll click OK. Keyboard shortcuts for applying transitions actually applied the default transition, so we ought to specify that next. In my Effects panel, I think I'm going to choose something nice and visible. I'll go to the Iris Transition Effects, and I'll choose the Iris Diamond. To specify this as the default transition effect, right-click on it and choose Set Selected as Default Transition. It's just one option in that menu. Now we're ready to use the keyboard. I'll zoom back out a little on the timeline so we can see what's going on. And now I'm going to need to choose the clips that I want transition effects to be applied to. I'm going to marquee select all of these clips so you can see what happens. There are 3 keyboard shortcuts to add a transition effect to video, audio, or both. And let's check out how they work. First, if I press Shift and D for default, you can see every clip, whether it's video or audio, gets a transition effect, including the ends of those clips. I'll just undo with Control-Z here in Windows. That'll be Command-Z on macOS. Command-D or Control-D adds a transition effect just to video clips. Again, I'll undo. And Shift-Command-D or Shift-Control-D will add transition effects only to audio clips. And I'll undo again. You'll notice again that every time you apply transition effects this way using a keyboard shortcut, the clips at the ends of your sequence also receive a transition effect. And for more control, you can also select multiple edits and apply transitions using a keyboard shortcut. To do this, I'm going to deselect by clicking on the background of the timeline panel or indeed pressing the Escape key. I'm going to hold down Control here on Windows. This would be Command on macOS, and I'm going to marquee select a range of edits. Let's try Shift-D again, and we're applying transition effects only to the selected edits. I'll undo once more with Control-Z or Command-Z. I can also deselect and select a range of clips and use my keyboard shortcut. In this case, I'm going to press Shift-D, which should give me a transition effect on all video and audio clips. But of course, in this case, I've specifically selected just video clips, so it doesn't matter. Although the keyboard shortcut would add an audio transition effect, there's no audio selected, and so on this occasion, it just adds transitions between the selected clips. Because this combination of selecting individual clip segments and pressing Shift-D is so convenient and easy to remember, it's probably the shortcut you're most likely to keep in mind. But do remember that there are variations on the theme, and keyboard shortcuts are almost always faster than dragging with the mouse. That's a quick introduction to applying transitions with keyboard shortcuts in Adobe Premiere Pro CC.